welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City, happy to be here with you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They are open for sales and service Monday through Saturday, and of course all the time online at greatlakeshondacity.com. We have an awesome show set up here for you today with two amazing guests, and of course, as always with Tuesdays, the ingredients to success will be coming with you here to round out the show. We're up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. And of course, we are now back on MixLR.com /WakeUpCallDT. And if you want over 2,000 broadcasts of Wake Up Call, head to wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So thank you for being here, hanging out with us inside these Great Lakes Honda City Studios and inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', giving you the list of topics and guests for the day. Dave Paziak, longtime basketball coach and analyst, will join me, as he always does, to speak on the wonderful world of the NBA, and we'll be talking playoffs as we are now officially in the 2026 NBA Conference Final Round. In the Western Conference with Oklahoma City and San Antonio, and in the Eastern Conference with the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kind of what you expected in the West, maybe not what you expected in the East. So we'll talk about that with Dave in just a few minutes. And at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, I will be joined by Neel Bhattacharjee, who is no stranger to the broadcast, Binghamton Bearcats women's soccer head coach, joining me to speak on the upcoming World Cup that is going to be here in North America. And of course, we will also be discussing his student athletes that just graduated and a look toward the future with recruiting and so on and so forth. And then we'll round out, as I said, with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful team at Avicolli's. Today's topic is changed behavior. And in the essence of the fact that a new Star Wars movie is coming out with two of my favorite characters, I should say, the Mandalorian and Grogu, I am rocking Star Wars Grogu Mandalorian stuff throughout the week. So this is simply a shirt with Grogu that says wanted. And sometimes I feel that way when I'm around other people in the media. So shout out to Grogu, having some fun here, and going to have Dave right here picture in picture with us for DT and DP. Dave, how we doing?
Doing great this morning, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm happy to have you here. And you and I obviously have talked for years going through the NBA postseason, and always happy to have you here to discuss what's going on in the NBA, be it the postseason, be it the regular season, free agency, as well as the draft. So now that we know where we're at in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, we'll start in the East and we'll set in the West here as the sun does. So let's go with the East here. The New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not what I think people were expecting. The 3 seed versus the 4 seed for the right to go to the NBA Finals. Bring me into your thoughts on the Knicks and the Cavs and the roads that they took to get here.
Well, I think there's a little bit of similarity between the two teams in this sense. I think they're both teams, we've talked about it before, like the beauty of the NBA playoffs is in the struggle and the fight. And, it's very seldom that you see a team come out of nowhere and all of a sudden ascent to the championship. And, the Pistons is a good example of that. Great regular season, but, the young team that's still learning and, just got annihilated at home in Game 7. But I think Cleveland's a team that, they were kind of in the Detroit position a year ago, best record in the East, flamed out a little bit early in the playoffs, and high expectations coming into this season. Team was really spotty through much of the season. Then they made the big deal for James Harden, and still a team that's been kind of maddeningly inconsistent, right? Even since they've added Harden, but at their best, you've got James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. That's as formidable as a backcourt as you're going to find. And when you combine them with Mobley and Allen, and that's a dangerous team. But it's a really erratic team, or has been, and a little bit of that is their reliance on Harden and to an extent Mitchell. Those have been guys who have been throughout their career have been spectacular, but have also had stretches where they've kind of failed to deliver. So the Knicks, they're a team that they seem to have figured it out on the fly almost. Down 2-1 in Atlanta, and then they flipped the switch, and they've just been, the last two games against the Hawks. Part of that game seven was just the Hawks, for the failure to show up in the elimination game, but game six rather.
Yeah.
And then against the Sixers, we talked a little bit about this. You can kind of write off the first game as the Sixers with the quick turnaround after the big win over Boston. But even, through the rest of that series, I mean, New York seems to have found themselves really playing well at the right time of year. And the thing is, like when they fired Thibodeau, he was a ceiling, kind of had a ceiling as a coach, I felt, and understood why the Knicks whacked him. But then when they hired Mike Brown, it seemed like were hiring more of the same, a guy who was defensive oriented, never was super creative offensively, and kind of a guy who could take you to a certain level, but that was about it. And to Mike Brown's credit, they have evolved offensively to where their ball movement, they're sharing the ball. The Knicks, like previously, the Knicks coming down a stretch of a close game was four guys watching Brunson play.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be the case. Brunson's still, he's still their guy, and he's still the guy that will, he'll make plays, but it's not exclusively Brunson. Their ball movement and relying on, Towns has been great. It's different stretches of the playoffs. So they're a team that has really diversified offensively and gone from being almost a painful watch with Brunson to now Brunson is integrated with the rest of the team and they're a fun watch. So should be an interesting series. I hesitate to say that it's the JV round because I don't think either one of these teams are at the level of the Spurs and the Thunder. And whoever survives will have a puncher's chance in the finals, but they're going to be a significant underdog to whoever comes out of the West.
Well, and like you said, I mean, there's a lot of pieces that you brought with that, and I appreciate that. So we're going to break it down in certain areas. I want to start with James Harden because he has had a career that's bounced him all over the NBA, right? And he started, and this is the irony here, if Harden is able to get to the NBA Finals, he could be facing the team that originally brought him in, which were the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we never really got to see what life was going to be like with the Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant world because it was more short-lived with James Harden being the first to go, then Durant, then Russell Westbrook eventually. But it's his career, and if that were to happen and come full circle, would definitely be something to look at in a storyline for the NBA Finals this year. But in general, he's one of those guys that we know can take over a game, and we know can be effective. But then there's also the reality that he's on a team and they don't get over the hump. They don't get past a certain place. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the James Harden factor because is he truly the X factor, I guess is the question. Is he the game changer? Is he the one that you believe can get Cleveland back to the NBA Finals? Or is James Harden one of those guys that's really hard to figure out, like an enigma? Where do you kind of see him in the NBA as far as how he's been in his career? Is he the X factor or is he the enigma?
He's kind of both. He's a guy, he doesn't have the bounce that he had during peak MVP, triple-double James Harden, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that bounce in his step. But he's a guy who, really at his peak had cracked the code. And, I mentioned Brunson a couple minutes ago. Like Brunson is the next iteration of Harden. Harden, the one thing that I think he's always been a little underrated on is he's so ball dominant that I think people forget he's also a high assist guy who creates for others. If you can deal with him having the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah.
He hasn't, to your point, Dan, he hasn't proven that being that ball dominant, he can carry a team to a championship. There's been kind of a ceiling with him. Um, you mentioned OKC. It's really when he and Durant and Westbrook were together, people thought that team was going to be a contender for the next decade.
Yeah.
And then, they made a horrific front office decision. I thought so at the time. It's played out that way where they chose to keep Ibaka and get rid of Harden. And it kind of all went the wrong way from there in OKC until this new iteration, which it's ironic they're in the same situation now where they've got a core that if they keep them together, they should be a contender for the next decade. But anyways, back to Harden. Um, I think in Cleveland, like they have stretches and there'll be games where they'll give him the ball at the end and they play through Harden with the game on the line. I think the thing that has helped a little bit in Cleveland is he's not the guy for 48 minutes a game, game in and game out. It's Donovan Mitchell's team still.
Yeah.
So I think, if they strike the right balance and, when they do, they're a really tough team to beat. When they strike the right balance of, it's Mitchell's team. Harden plays a little bit more of a supporting role, along with, Allen and Mobley and the rest of their cast. But then when they need him to take over the game, he has the ability to do that for a stretch,
Yeah.
and that's what makes them dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, and you answered it the way I was thinking about it. When I said, is he an enigma or an X factor? And you said he's both. I mean, he is that one that's kind of hard to understand. You feel like when he's on a team, then okay, maybe that team has an MVP caliber player, but then you also have the other side of, okay, he's on the team, but where are we going? Cleveland has had moments, right? They had moments with LeBron. They had moments with LeBron again. And now in this iteration with Donovan Mitchell and him coming from another place, being drafted by somebody else, the same thing with James Harden. To put this together, Cleveland was in a series with Toronto to start things off here in the NBA playoffs as the 4 seed, Toronto as the 5 seed. And Cleveland won at home and Toronto won at home. And both of them took care of home, and Cleveland just happened to have one more home game. Then we had to see what they could be if they were going to actually advance, which is to win on the road. And to see them in the series against Detroit, the number 1 seed, which I said going in to the NBA playoffs, I thought that they were vulnerable. I didn't see number 1 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder as a team that I was worried about tripping up somewhere, but I thought Detroit could. And I said that Detroit was going to get a fight from the 8 seed. I said that before their series started. I said, do not be surprised if the 8 seed pushes them, maybe beats them. And the Magic got close. So with the Magic being where they were and Detroit having to come all the way back, and then Cleveland having to go in this series with Detroit and force it all the way to a game 7, I'd love to get your thoughts on the two teams that are in the Eastern Conference Finals in the vein of Cleveland showed that they could win on the road, and they blew out Detroit in Detroit in a do-or-die game 7. They beat them by 31 points. The Knicks, in their first series, in a do-or-die against the Hawks on the road, defeated them by 51 points away from home. So in these literal back against the wall, lose and you're out situations, Atlanta was home, Detroit was home. Bring me into your thoughts on the Knicks being road warriors and the Cavs being road warriors. Do you believe it? Do you believe they truly can win on the road consistently is question number 1. And the second part to that is, what are we doing in the NBA postseason when teams are facing elimination and losing by 30 or more points?
Yeah, I think like the first part of your question, I think the thing that benefits the Knicks and benefited the Cavs when you're playing the Hawks and when you're playing Detroit. All right. Atlanta and Detroit, Atlanta's kind of a remix team after they got rid of Trae Young. Not a ton of big game experience and deep playoff run experience versus the Knicks, a team that's, gotten to the conference finals recently. And, and it comes back to like in the NBA, I think more than any other sport. I mean, you can go all the way back to, Jordan finally getting back past the bad vibe Pistons, or LeBron finally winning the title, or even prior to that, like, Bird and Magic and everything. I think throughout the history of the NBA, it's like a team has to endure that pain and suffering and has to kind of go through some adversity before they conquer the next round. I think the only really major exception to that I can think of was when, the Celtics came out of nowhere when they put Pierce and Garnett and Ray Allen together. That's really the only example
Yeah.
in fairly recent NBA history of a champion kind of coming out of nowhere. So I think that, in the case of the Knicks, in the case of the Cavaliers, I think the fact that those teams and their key guys have faced that adversity and had been in those situations and now kind of figured out how to conquer it, I think really played to their advantage when you're playing against a team like Atlanta, who is like newly reconstituted, a team like Detroit, who had a great regular season, but outside of Tobias Harris, that's still a really young core. Um, so I think that, certainly worked in their favor. And I think that kind of feeds into the answer to your next question about, blowouts and elimination games and everything. I think specific, like Atlanta, I thought that was just a disgraceful effort when they got behind big early and um, just never showed any fight in that game. Um, I think in the case of Detroit, I really felt it was interesting because um, I was on the way home with during the pregame of that. So I got NBA radio on. I'm listening to the pregame, and they had the Detroit feed going on NBA radio. And George Blah has been announced the play-by-play guy in Detroit for a million years, and Rick Mahorn, that's the broadcast team. And they're talking about it like they'd be shocked if Cleveland, comes in there and wins, and how the Pistons conquered it because they won in Cleveland in Game 6 to go up 3-2, and like I almost felt this going in and listening to the broadcast, like their pregame show in Detroit. I felt like there was a certain degree of immaturity on the part of the Pistons. Um, I think they were riding high after winning in Cleveland in Game 6, and it almost felt like you could feel this through the TV screen, like as the game tipped off and whatnot, that Detroit felt like they had it won because they went up 3-2. We're coming home Game 7. Cleveland hadn't won on the road,
Yeah.
and I felt like the immaturity of the Pistons really contributed to that. The Cavs came out and kicked them in the teeth early, and Detroit never recovered. So, I think that's a bitter pill for the Pistons to swallow after having such a great regular season. But I also think it's a growth, it's an inflection point and a growth point that, they could recover from that and respond to that. And, I would look for that team to be in the mix again next year with their core.
Well, what I like about the Pistons, too, is they have upstate New York represented on that team. Isaiah Stewart, Tobias Harris, and Symir Torrance, who found his way over there working with and playing on Motor City, their G League team. So there is a connection there with Central New York. And there was some time with Buddy Boeheim there as well. So a shout out to Detroit for that. Here with Dave Paziak for DT and DP, hanging out with you where sports meets life inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, speaking on the 2026 NBA Eastern and Western Conference Finals and the road to get there. So I want to go to something really interesting with the Knicks. Now, I got a lot of questions for the Knicks. That's why I want to talk about the Cavs first, because I want to give them both their flowers. But I guess I'm going to start here, and it's a very simple question, but I think it can create a longer conversation. And that question is, Dave, is the NBA not better when the Knicks are playing in late May and early June?
I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of a loaded question being in New York and everything and whatnot. Um, People will tell you the NBA is better when the Lakers are good, or when the Celtics are good, or when the Knicks are good.
Yeah.
Um, there's a grain of truth to that with TV ratings and stuff like that. But I think when you look at the two best teams in the league are in two of the smallest markets. So, um, I think it's not like football or baseball or whatnot, where you're putting more guys on the field. And I mean, the NBA, there's five guys on the court, and teams have proven if you got a great player, two really good players next to him, and a strong core. I mean, you can win in San Antonio and Oklahoma City. So, um, I think the Knicks being good, and I think if the Knicks get to the finals, there's certainly some buzz to that because it's been so long since the Knicks have been there, in the finals and competing for a championship and whatnot, or winning a championship.
Right.
So I mean, that buzz, like any kind of buzz is good, right? Um, I think that if the Knicks get to the finals, I think it'll be good for the TV ratings, especially early on. And if it's a competitive series, I think could be good. But I don't know that the league is necessarily better because the Knicks or one of the other marquee franchises is good. I think the league is healthier when everybody's got a shot. And it's not. I mean, it's not like baseball where the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers can reload every year. But if you're the Tampa Bay Rays, I mean, or another smaller, the Kansas City Royals, I mean, you really got to get lucky, and you can't sustain it year after year. I think the NBA, with good front office and the structure they have, I think you can sustain it whether you're big market or small market.
Well, and I think there's a lot of things that you said there. One of the things is, like when it comes to smaller market, we talk about San Antonio, Oklahoma City, that it's beautiful to see them there. I also go back to when people were saying with the Tim Duncan years, San Antonio is so boring, such a boring team. Who wants to watch them? And I was like, if boring is going to the NBA Finals repeatedly, I'll be boring. I mean, and so you hear that, like, oh, is it good for TV? Was Toronto good for TV when they made it to the NBA Finals? And to me, I don't care if it's good for TV or not. I think whoever makes it, whoever the best teams are, God bless them, and let's rock. And I will tell you this right now, Luke Laux, the head coach that has found his way into the ACC and with his alma mater, him and I were talking, and he was on that Golden State staff when Toronto beat them. And I will tell you this, there's a bitterness to it still. I had never met Luke Laux before, and he's the FSU head coach for men's basketball. And Dave, I don't think I told you the story. So I met him, and I had him on camera, and I said, hey, I was like, congratulations on your championships, and shout out to my Raptors who beat you. And he looked right at me, and he was like, yeah, we had one of our best players in the league down with an injury, da-da-da-da. And I was like, don't be bitter. Just give me the flowers. We won what we won. But, I've never been a person of, is it good for TV? Because there's TV shows on like Real Housewives and the Kardashians that people watch by the millions. And I feel like we should watch it instead of using waterboarding if we want to get a terrorist to speak. So I genuinely don't agree with the TV side of it, but I think good for the NBA. I think what I'm getting at here is it's been so long for the Knicks, and you talked about this. And every year I get to spend some time around Madison Square Garden. I feel very blessed for that. And I've covered the Big East tournament. I've covered Big East Media Days. And I'm also down there with Super Powered Pop, our entertainment show, to do New York Comic Con in October. So by the grace of God, I've been able to do that for years. So I definitely love when the Garden has something to put in it when it comes to, this time of year in basketball. And it's been a really long time. So to see this happen for the Knicks, I think is great. And I think, it kind of brings some nostalgia, even though it's happening now, I feel like it kind of brings me back to being a kid because I was never a Knicks fan, but I knew the team. You knew all the players. You knew the Allen Houstons and the Chris Childs and the Charles Oakleys and Patrick Ewing and so on and so forth because they were good. They were a pain in the butt to get through. So the team that they have now, you mentioned Jalen Brunson and him having to do it by himself in recent history. And now this season, there's more people adding into this, like Karl Anthony Towns and so on and so forth. I want to go to something that I find incredibly interesting, and it plays into everything I kind of just said. I told you I've been to the Madison Square Garden multiple times to cover the Big East. Villanova plays in the Big East. So Villanova, when it comes to media days at the beginning of the season and the end of the season before the postseason, they're back at the Garden once again when it comes to the Big East tournament. So they start the season there and they end the postseason as far as conference-wise also at the Garden like bookends. Well, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Jalen Brunson all have something in common. They were teammates at Villanova. So they know what it was like to go to the Garden. They know what it was like to be there for Media Day. They know what it's like to be there for the Big East tournament. And now they're there again. Bring me into this interesting and amazing moment where 3 Villanova Wildcats are New York Knicks, teammates in college, teammates professionally, did some fun things back in college, now have the opportunity to do some amazing things as New York Knicks teammates in a place that they are that's recognizable to them because of the Big East and the Big East tournament and Big East media days. And on top of all of that, I guess my question to you, Dave, is do the Knicks owe a thank you to the Villanova Wildcats, and do they owe a thank you to the Villanova Wildcats basketball coach of many years that, obviously I'm very sad is not here anymore, in Jay Wright? So do the Knicks owe a letter to Jay Wright, and what are your thoughts that Villanova is carrying the Knicks right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a couple different layers to that. I think the fact that, they've all landed in New York and enjoyed success and everything, playing together again. I think it's a neat story, but I don't think, they could have landed wherever, whatever, right? But I think it does speak a little bit to, the fact that those guys uh, have all had good to really good to great NBA careers to this point.
Yeah.
And are building something together. I think that speaks to Villanova's program and certainly Jay Wright and he's a guy whose name has been kicked around numerous times over the years as a possible NBA coach and seems to. I mean, if you believe what you read and you see and everything, he doesn't seem like he's got a whole lot of interest in going down that path. But I think, the fact that these guys are achieving and probably, I think it's probably fair to say, have probably all exceeded expectations to one degree or another as NBA players. I think that certainly speaks to, kind of the culture and the player development and preparedness to get guys to the next level, and doing that without really, without sacrificing the here and now at Villanova, because they certainly had, high level of success when they're playing together at Villanova as well. So, I think Jay Wright and the program at Villanova certainly, I'm sure he's proud of what those guys are doing together at the Knicks and what his guys have done in general in the NBA.
Yeah, and I do want to make note of this, too. Besides Mikal Bridges, who was drafted in 2018, 10th overall, we're not talking about high draft picks. Josh Hart was at the bottom of the 2017 first round at pick 30 by Utah, and Jalen Brunson was a second-round pick by the Dallas Mavericks, pick 33, and he was picked in the second round of that, the top of the second round. So what they've done as well as far as where they were drafted in the NBA also speaks volumes to them. But I think to me, I just think it's an awesome storyline because we talk about the Knicks getting deep in the postseason. What does that do for nostalgia? How does that maybe bring in some fans that maybe have lost their connection to the NBA? And then we see what the Garden is for the Big East, what the Garden is for the Knicks. Villanova, these 3 guys have experienced both. And the fact that they are now here helping Knicks fans have something to enjoy when they were once doing it in the Madison Square Garden as Villanova Wildcats and helping the Wildcat fans to enjoy that. So I just find that to be really interesting. And we talk about it's not just Jalen Brunson. And, obviously when you have teammates that know you and sometimes have that osmosis and kind of just know where you're going to be and know your weaknesses, know your strengths very well, I kind of wanted to lean into that a little bit, Dave, and say, like, not only is it not Jalen Brunson anymore, and I don't want to take any flowers away from McBride or Karl Anthony Towns or anything like that, but are we in a place where, because of Hart and because of Bridges being familiar with Brunson and understanding him, understanding his weaknesses, understanding his strengths, understanding kind of, his tactics and his MO, so to speak, is that why we're seeing the Knicks edge farther this year?
I mean, I think it has helped in their ascension. You know, their ascension. From being a non-factor to being a playoff team to getting to the conference semis to getting to the conference finals to here we are now.
Yeah.
I think those guys, as they're building things, I think their familiarity with each other and the other guys understanding Brunson and being able to play in that kind of mode, I guess. I think that's certainly a factor that helped the Knicks with their growth and their ascension as a franchise and probably accelerated that a little bit. And it's still a factor. I mean, it's still a factor now, but those guys have been together, and I think the Knicks have been. We talked earlier about it, like you got the right organization, you can, you got a shot in the NBA. The Knicks under Dolan have made more missteps than you can count as a franchise, and it would be funny every year to talk about free agency and New York being a destination, but how many times did the Knicks really land a free agent? So the players knew it was, at times their front office has been an outright clown show, but they've kind of righted the ship and got things right now. Having the three Villanova guys as a core and then putting the right pieces around that, going out getting Towns and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I think those guys' chemistry with each other and familiarity with each other, I think has like really kind of laid a foundation for the team's ascension. It's certainly been a factor, right up till today.
Yeah, and seeing the fact that, speaking of today here, for those of you watching and listening live on May 19th, we will see Game 1 of the Knicks-Cavs Eastern Conference Finals series. So the tip-off of the East happens today. The tip-off in the West happened yesterday, and some interesting history, speaking of history, to go back to that game, Game 1 of the Spurs and the Thunder. This was something that is going to be etched in history as being the first time in 7 years that we have seen any conference final game go to double overtime. And the last time it happened, 2019, in the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 3, the Raptors versus the Bucks, in the season where the Raptors won their NBA title. So the Raptors, we go back to that game and we discuss their road. What does that mean for the Spurs that found a way to win and get the victory on the road in Oklahoma City? The 2-seeded Spurs, the 1-seeded Thunder, and they got to start things off in Oklahoma. They won it in double overtime, 122-115. We look throughout this game. The teams were tied in the first quarter. San Antonio won the second quarter. The third quarter was tied. Oklahoma City won the fourth quarter. So interesting how this shook out, right? 2 of the 4 quarters, same score by both teams. San Antonio wins one, Oklahoma City wins the other. Then we go into overtime and look at ultimately how this game was won by 7 by the Spurs. I'd love to get your thoughts, Dave, on this Game 1. If this is any signifier of what this series is going to be, we have the 2 best seeds that made it to the end of the West. And I know you and I have talked about this before. When the top teams make it, then we're actually, seeing a champion be born. I know we've talked about Oklahoma City, and do they have a lot of places where they can bleed? but San Antonio stole one on the road in double overtime and wins this game by 7. I'd love to get your take on Wembanyama and the crew going in and putting a spur in the side of the Thunder.
Yeah, well, it's going in, I was really hopeful for this series because it's a historic series. It's been 28 years, I think, since two teams with this many wins have met in any NBA playoff series. And it's been like 45 years since it's been in the conference finals, two teams out of the same conference. So, just based on that, you had really kind of hopefulness and anticipation of this being a really special series. And then, I was reading the column this morning, from The Athletic, where they called last night's game the best NBA playoff game this decade. And it's a little bit of recency bias, I'm sure, but just a fantastic game last night, in all respects. And I think the series is so fascinating because, OKC is the best team in the NBA, and proven it over the course of the season. But the Spurs, in a sense, are a little bit of their kryptonite. They beat them 4 out of 5 in the regular season, and we talk about that growth process and everything. Like OKC's been to the mountaintop, and the Spurs are still a team on the ascent. And like they're growing up before our eyes in that game last night. It was the kind of game where you're watching the game and like it felt like the Spurs are in control most of the night. And then, you're coming down the stretch and all of a sudden it's everybody's game and you feel like, here's where the Thunder's, championship DNA is going to take over and they're going to find a way to win this game. And, felt like that at the end of regulation. And then, the Thunder are up in overtime, and Wembanyama hits a 3 that Curry would have been proud of to tie the game. And I think Wembanyama is really he's fast becoming the next face of the league. Yeah. It's early to say, and he's still got a lot of growth to do, and he's got to stay healthy and all those things. But he's on a trajectory. And what he did last night, was just unbelievable. At both ends of the floor. And if you like defense, you got to like this series too, because for as much as there's talented players on both sides of the ball offensively, nothing is easy in this series, right? Yeah. Nothing is easy on the perimeter. Nothing is easy at the rim. Both teams with Oklahoma City, it's like team defense and their perimeter pressure and their way they cut and their ability to cover for each other. With San Antonio, it's the way Wembanyama can cover up for defensive mistakes and rim protect and close and those kinds of things. So, Wembanyama he's on a trajectory to be. And he's got a long way to go before he's even in this conversation, with these guys. But he's on a trajectory to be the Magic, Bird, Jordan, LeBron type frontman face of the league in a way that, as great as Durant has been and Curry has been and Jokic has been, I think he has a way to be the face of the transcendent face of the league that even those guys haven't become.
Well, and you and I were talking about this off the air. I feel like the NBA was trying to set it up, right? Even before the draft, talking about Wembanyama and all the hype around him. I know in the sports card world, the hype around him was high. It stayed high. I believe it's still high. If you can, everybody's looking for Wembies. Whether you collect basketball or not, they're trying to get Wembies so that they can trade Wembies. They're trying to get them so they could sell them. So he has stayed hot on that market. He was a big name before the draft. He was the guy we expected to be number one. He went number one. And now he's the guy that in his first Western Conference final game ever, what does he do? 41 points, 24 rebounds. And you talked about the fact that between these two teams, the amount of wins that they had this season, 126 wins inside of the regular season combined between the Spurs and the Thunder, and losses, a mere 38. So 38 losses to 126 victories, absolutely insane. And there's another piece I want to get to when we look a little bit ahead here, but what does this say? I know you said this series, nothing's going to be easy, and there's defense. And I talked about Oklahoma City being a team that was fundamentally sound years ago, and that if San Antonio is a boring team, that I love boring. And now, as we fast forward here, I was talking about teams with different players at the time, but it kind of keeps the same essence of the reality of maybe this is a side of the NBA that people aren't used to seeing, right? Playing defense, playing team ball, making things difficult. That's why there's certain teams and certain players I don't like watching, because they play on one side of the floor. There's no defense. There doesn't seem like any connectivity. It's just who can score 115 points first. And then you see a team like the Thunder and you see a team like the Spurs that were playing fundamental basketball back in the day, and now you're talking about two all-around teams facing off against each other. I know we've said that Oklahoma City is the best team in the NBA, but do you believe that the Spurs could find a way to shake it up here? I mean, is this a 7-game series? What is your take on this? If Oklahoma City is the best team and you thought that their title ability and experience was going to kick in, and it didn't kick in all the way last night, and they lost that game at home, are we seeing a series that you think will go 7? And do you see the Spurs as a true, genuine, consistent contender in this series to try and oust who many consider the best team in the NBA to be?
Yeah, I mean, I hope this goes 6 or 7 games. I mean, it's got the makings of being a classic series. So just as a basketball fan that, doesn't have a real, rooting interest one way or another, I think, it'd be great for the sport, and, to see this go, 7 games, 6 games, 7 games, close, every game. I think you got to take the Spurs seriously as a contender. I think it's kind of a classic matchup where you've got the best team against the best player. Um, you know, yes, Shea Gilgeous, Shea's he's the MVP again. All right. But that said, Wemby's the best player in the series. Um, so I think if you take Wemby off of, and we saw this when he missed the game in the earlier series, the Portland series, right? If you take Wemby off the floor, um, San Antonio is a very average team, right? Um, but he has the ability to elevate his team and the guys around him. Um, so it's a really classic matchup in that sense. Like you say, OKC has been the best team in the NBA for the past 2 years. Um, but San Antonio had, because of Wemby and because of matchups, and San Antonio has found a way to kind of neutralize the Thunder. And like I said, they beat them 4 out of 5 in the regular season, and um, went into OKC and managed to pull that game off last night. So, I would look for the Thunder to rebound in game 2, playing at home. I think if the Spurs go up 2-0 on the road,
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's a different conversation about the whole series. Now you're wondering if the Thunder can go on the road and extend. But um, I'm hoping it's a classic series, and I think at this point you have to take San Antonio seriously as a threat. And I think the interesting thing about it too is, I think if the Thunder ultimately come out of this, I think they're a prohibitive favorite against either the Knicks or the Cavaliers. If the Spurs come out of it, I think you got a much more pick-em NBA Finals.
Yeah.
So it's a really, I think everything's fascinating. I mean, I could see any of the 4 combinations ultimately emerging for the NBA Finals. Either team coming out of the East, either team coming out of the West.
And it's interesting, and I don't disagree with what you said, and this is why I find it interesting. I think Victor Wembanyama is arguably the best player in that series between the Spurs and the Thunder. But if the Thunder were to win the series, seeing them as a favorite, but if the Spurs won the series, seeing that as more of a pick'em, I agree with that. So it's kind of funny how the way we talk about Wembanyama, but if the Spurs were to win and the Knicks were to win, I'd be like, okay, maybe that's more of an even series than if the Knicks went up against the Thunder. I want you to tell me this. 2 final points here, Dave, with DT and DP, with the longtime basketball head coach and analyst, talking about the 2026 NBA playoffs as we're in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Second to last point here. Not named Victor Wembanyama, not named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Give me the catalyst for the Spurs in this series. Give me the catalyst for the Thunder.
Thunder, I think it's twofold. I think it's Williams offensively and it's Holmgren defensively.
Okay.
Spurs, I think it's collectively their ball handling, right? Like that was the one really like red flag with the Spurs last night is really sloppy Castle and whatnot. Really like they got out of there with a win in a high turnover situation, and I think that has a way of coming back to haunt them. So I would say probably Castle for the Spurs.
Okay. And by the way, as we talk about Villanova and the 3 teammates, the trifecta with the Knicks, we have Castle from UConn, Harper from Rutgers, starters for the Spurs, and drafted here recently. Castle drafted in 2024, 4th overall, and Dylan Harper, a rookie this year, drafted in the 2025 NBA draft, 2nd overall. So these young guns with the Spurs, also from the Big East, doing some great things. So the Big East consistently proving if the NCAA tournament doesn't want to give them a lot of bids, they'll just go to the NBA playoffs and try to win a championship professionally. Dave, my final point here for today's conversation goes to the officiating crew. The 2026 playoff officials have been named for the conference finals, and we have Curtis Blair, Tony Brothers, Nick Buckert, as well as James Capers, Tyler Ford, Mitchell Irvin, J.B. DeRosa, Mark Davis, Scott Foster, John Goebel, Courtney Kirkland, Carl Lane, Josh Tiven, Ben Taylor, Kevin Scott. We have Gediminas Petritis, and we also have Justin Van Dyne, James Williams, Sean Wright, and Zach Zarba. Are any of those names, this is what's been told to me a long time ago by an official, they said if you do a good job, you will enter the building and they won't know your name. You will exit the building and they won't know your name. So I guess the question is here, if you know those names, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You're a longtime coach. You know that not every official is the same. You know that not every official is fair, and not every official calls the game on both sides the exact same way. So I ask you, as I read off those names, are there officials in the conference finals that you as a coach would kind of maybe be a little bit leery of the fact that that person's there?
Well, I don't know how Brothers is getting advanced in the playoffs. He's just like he's gotten himself in the middle of. He had a pretty egregious no call that really swung that Pistons Cavaliers series. If you look back to the end of Game 6 of that series, and he got into it with Finch from Minnesota. Like to me. Like I don't get it with Brothers. Brothers gets a lot of big games, and I just, I think the players like him. He got fairly good ratings. Zarba's the guy that the players rank as the top. He had a game last night. He's a guy that seems to do the game and keep himself out of trouble and everything. The guy that the other guy that's really controversial is Foster. Like Foster's got the reputation, they call him the extender, right? Foster's a guy who has the perception that he's going to take home the team that's trailing in the series all the time. And, so a guy did a statistical analysis on it, and it's really kind of BS. His numbers really don't differ from there are other officials whose deviation on the team's trailing are same as his or greater than his. Yeah. Foster's a guy. He's very polarizing. They had a players poll that I mentioned. They rated Zarba as the top official. Foster ends up in a lot of tier 1s where people think he's an elite official, and a lot of tier 3s where people think he shouldn't be getting games. So he's a controversial guy who seems to be in the middle of stuff a lot.
Yeah. So we'll see how it shakes out. We'll see how it looks here. And if people don't know the names going in and out of the building, or if they do know them in the essence of the official that said that to me. He said, hey, if I do a good job, they don't know my face, they don't know my name. With that being said, we know this face and this name because he does do a good job and he does his work. So it's kind of the flip of being an official, and that's Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, one of our resident guests that we have here all the time throughout the years, talking about the NBA and more. Dave, as always, I appreciate it. I look forward to talking with you soon. And as we tip off the Eastern Conference Finals tonight, I look forward to our next conversation of how the West is going and how this East starts off and gets going as well.
Yeah, great to talk to you, and looking forward to hopefully two great conference finals and a great championship series.
Amen to that. I'll talk to you soon, Dave. Take care.
Take care, Dan.
See you. That come from Dave Pasiak one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take a quick step aside from inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We'll be back right after this, where sports meets life, with our all-new Bearcat Breakroom and our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton University, featuring Neel Bhattacharjee, the head coach of the Binghamton Bearcats women's soccer program.
Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, what is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry loving friend. Right, Lily? In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315 888-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Happy to be hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life, and happy to be here with you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We are here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and of course, Picture in Picture with Neel Bhattacharjee, the head coach of the women's soccer program at Binghamton University, and in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton University, bringing you your Bearcats, student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni throughout the year. Neel is here with me to celebrate a lot of things. 1, the 2026 World Cup, which I cannot wait for. 2, graduating student athletes. And 3, recruiting and looking forward. So first and foremost, Neel, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks again for having me on today.
Absolutely. And it's my honor and my privilege. And I want to start with the World Cup and taking a look at this. We are less than 24 days away. We are 23 days and some change from the FIFA World Cup 2026 here. And I am so excited that North America is going to be hosting. It's June 11th to July 19th of this year on the men's side. And just to let people know, if they don't know, Canada will have games in Toronto and Vancouver. Mexico will have games in Guadalajara, Mexico City, and Monterrey. And the United States will feature games in Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Seattle, and the San Francisco Bay Area. So I know that, just being a soccer fan in general, you're a coach, but, soccer fan first, right? If you didn't love the sport, how could you coach it? So even though it's on the men's side of things, soccer is soccer. The World Cup is the World Cup. How excited are you that North America will be featuring these games? And not only do we have World Cup time going on this summer, but that it's going to be right here on our continent. What does that mean?
Yeah, really pumped up. I love this event. My wife and kids already know, I'm going to be busy for about 5 weeks, parked on the couch, watching a lot of games, or if I get the opportunity to see a couple games in person. I had the good fortune of seeing the World Cup in 1994, the last time that the event was held here in the U.S. Went to 4 games at what was then called Giant Stadium. Italy versus Ireland was one of the games I saw, which to this day is one of the greatest, not just sporting events, but just events that I've had an opportunity to be a part of and witness. And obviously the World Cup, it's a little bit bigger this time around, where now you're going to have 48 teams, up from 32 from what it was last time. So really pumped and excited. I think it's going to be a terrific event. There's a little bit of mixed feelings because of, I'm sure you've heard a lot about what's going on as far as the ticket pricing and how accessible is this World Cup going to be for the everyday fan, myself included. But hoping that it's going to be something I'm going to be able to partake in, whether it's going to games in New Jersey or Toronto, Philly, Boston, number of venues that are within driving distance here of Central New York, and being able to absorb it in and taking in some World Cup fever.
Yeah, and you talk about the pricing of it all, and I've discussed this on the show, and I actually talked about the NFL yesterday, with the NFL saying, we're going to our fans where they're at. We're just bringing the games to you. And I said, no, you're not. If they were on CBS and they were on ABC and NBC and Fox, then you're bringing them to us. But when you're bringing them to Amazon Prime and Netflix and here, there, and everywhere, you're not bringing them to us. You're forcing us to have to go elsewhere. And when I put all the prices together, to watch an NFL season, if you want to watch most of the games, you're paying $107 a month on average. So when we look at this, when it comes to the fan and it comes to ticket prices or streaming or whatever that may be, Neel, I'd love to get your thoughts on this because the average fan is not sitting in a luxury box. The average fan is not coming in a limo or an Escalade. The average fan is not dropping thousands of dollars or landing in their private jet at whatever city these games are at. The average fan is driving that might have a couple kids, right? So there's a husband, wife, maybe a couple kids in the car. You're looking for a family of 4, and you're trying to not spend $500 or more to go to a game. So I'd love to get your take on this and the accessibility of it, because it's great to have the World Cup in North America, but let's be real. Our gas prices are almost $5 in New York. We're looking at egg prices that have fluctuated between $3 and $6. I just went and bought protein bars, fruit, and a couple other things at the grocery store. It cost me $88 to fill one bag of groceries at Wegmans. So I'd love to, hear your thoughts on accessibility and how maybe, just maybe, one of these places should be a little bit better about pricing. And it's great to have everything in North America, but you and I and most of the people here in this world are not in the upper class, and we want to be able to afford these things.
Right. So, I think we're all feeling the pinch. Even last year during our preseason, just to cover our expenses for our team, when we were here in July and August before, dining halls opened up and all of that, even then you notice the pinch. Prices to go shopping for the team, a lot of things. It's 30%, 40% higher than what you're used to. And, not doing anything extravagant or anything extra. It's just kind of the way it is. So having to deal with that. And then, your question is about these fans in North America, but the World Cup, it's a world event. So not only us, but, for people that are looking to fly from Europe, from Asia, from South America, from Africa, now you got the added expenses of the higher airfares, how hotels are going to be gouging customers, stuff like that. Now, the one thing that I am starting to notice is in recent weeks, you're starting to notice things starting to cool off a bit. Some of the prices have started to fall down, especially for some of the games that may not be as high marquee matchups. And you're also starting to notice that even stuff with hotels, where perhaps there was going to be pretty limited availability, but actually there's still a good number of rooms that are left because people are being priced out, and now they're starting to take notice. But what I noticed from last year, so I had the opportunity, this is my own personal experience of going to the Club World Cup last year, which is kind of a trial run for the World Cup. And I wanted to see a game at MetLife. It was the semifinal. I think I looked about 5 months before the semifinal was going to be played, and it was about $500 to go to a game. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I love the game. I love being a fan. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait this out because FIFA's using this dynamic pricing model. And the quarterfinal before that semifinal was held in Philadelphia, and I heard that tickets were being sold for $11. I'm like, okay, I'm going to look again. I got a great seat about 25 rows up in the lower bowl for $50 to see Chelsea go on and win that semifinal match. So I think my strategy is going to be pretty similar. Just kind of wait it out. Maybe if it's just a week or even just a couple of days beforehand, and see what's going to be available. And and for me, it's pretty easy. Having living here, having my own vehicle, perhaps not needing a hotel, and all the other additional expenses that some others coming from further locales are going to have to deal with. But I definitely want to take a part in what's going to be this magnificent event. Prices notwithstanding, and take my risk in terms of waiting a little bit and have an opportunity to hopefully see a few games in person.
Yeah, because I'm looking at Spain and Cabo Verde in the World Cup Group H, and the game is June 15th. And obviously I have heritage that, my lineage goes back to Spain and Italy. So I was like, okay, maybe I go to this game. I'm looking at prices right now. They are to sit closer to the field, over $1,000 a ticket. They're $500. The cheapest one is $423 that I'm seeing to sit in the 300 section. So I think I'm going to do a Neel Bhattacharjee, and I'm gonna wait it out here a little bit. Neel, I mentioned Spain. I also mentioned Italy. Italy is a 4-time champion. I saw them win watching when I was working at Epcot, when I was working down at Walt Disney World. I got to see a country connected to my heritage win a World Cup for the first time in my lifetime that I was paying attention back in 2006 when Italy won the World Cup, and then Spain won in 2010. I got to see them both when I was down in Florida. Well, Italy, being a 4-time champion, is missing their 3rd consecutive World Cup. They suffered a penalty shootout to Bosnia and Herzegovina in the UEFA playoff final. I'd love to get your thoughts on what is going on with Italy, because whenever the World Cup rolls around, I get excited about the United States, Italy, Spain. I haven't been able to get really excited about Italy in recent history here. What's going on with the 4-time champion historically that has now put 3 straight World Cups out of reach?
Yeah, so really interested to see how kind of how big a fall and a tumble Italy has taken, because they're generally noted as, you know, one of the legit soccer powers. You know, you think about Argentina, Brazil, England, Spain, France, and Italy's typically right up there, but, you know, really hasn't happened in recent history. A little bit about our program: we actually just took a foreign trip to Italy, you know, where we were able to go there at the over our spring break, end of March into early April. So we were actually in Rome when Italy was playing at Bosnia. So we were expecting, okay, the next day it's either going to be a big party in the streets of Rome, or you're going to see a lot of sad, crestfallen Italian fans, and unfortunately, it happened to be the latter. So yeah, I remember we were, you know, I was with a couple of the coaches and people from our travel company, and just watching the game take place, and yeah, just a sad moment for Italian football. But I have to tell you, no, it's not quite what they used to be, and so I think they have an internal reckoning that they've got to do, and they know it. You know, I've heard from their coaches, technical advisors, some players that have had some pretty significant influence in Italy, like Gianluca Buffon, Paolo Maldini, what they're saying. Even looking at Serie A, you know, I think it's not quite at the level of the English Premier League and La Liga. So there's some things that they have to look at. I think it's really systematic, you know, what they're doing at the youth level, how that's impacting what they're doing at the national team level, because it definitely has taken a step back. And I got to tell you, you know, watching Italy versus Bosnia, I don't really think it was much of an upset. You know, I thought it was a pretty even game. You know, typically you would think, okay, Italy would be a heavy favorite in that matchup. But having watched the game, you know, I thought they lacked certain things in terms of the creativity, the skill, definitely the defensive organization that you can expect from Italian teams. So I hope they can kind of take this moment, you know, to kind of reflect on things they can do better. The U.S., hey, we experienced it when we didn't qualify in 2018. And you know, had to ask some really hard questions. Okay, what are we doing within our own system, our process, developing players? So I think Italy's going to have to take a hard look, and then be able to make some steps going forward from here.
Yeah, and you really went into it, is, you know, when we are seeing a struggle from a country in finding themselves qualifying for something like the World Cup, where does that come from? You know, and like you talked about it being systemic and going through from the youth all the way up, and how certain things maybe aren't the same as they used to be, or maybe they didn't adjust to certain things and ad lib and change when they needed to. But you kind of led into the point of, when we see a powerhouse kind of dwindle down and start to crumble away, does that go all the way back to the youth level and how things are being taught and how they're being brought up through it? And, you know, what are they leaning on? What are they not leaning on? What have they adjusted to? What have they not adjusted to? What's a plan that's worked? What's a plan that hasn't? Or is there a disconnect somewhere rising up the levels where they're not learning what they need to learn here, so by the time they get to the next phase, they're not prepared for it? I love that you went into that, because that's something that stays on my mind, and I feel like somebody said it to me years ago, of when there's an issue with a country having success or had success and now they don't anymore, look to the systemic part of how it is from youth all the way through and what they're teaching up the levels. So I love that you went to that point. If you can go a little bit deeper, why you think that could be an issue and just how important it is to have parallels and consistency from a young age when you're trying to build a world power in a country representation when it comes to a sport like soccer.
Yeah, I don't think you can necessarily point your finger at just one thing. Ultimately the coach is going to be the one that takes the fall, because everything begins and starts with that person. But really, I think it's much deeper than that. So it is the whole system. It is basically all the things that lead up in terms of national team success or lack thereof. What these players are doing when they're away from the national team. I mean, the thing about the national team is those are short windows. You really only get a couple training camps and then you're going into games. But a lot of what you're doing is based upon your play with your club team. So if they're playing with what supposedly should be high-level Serie A teams and they're not getting it done there, it's not quite at the level, say, some of these other players that are playing in Premier League, La Liga. I would say at this point the German Bundesliga is now a league that's on a higher level than Serie A, and even some of these pro leagues in Holland and also in France. They're getting some pretty competitive experiences there. So I don't know if it's necessarily one thing. The other thing too, and I think Italy has to be careful about this. If you miss the World Cup one time, it can happen. There's upsets, PK shootouts, all of that. But when it's 3 times in a row, and especially this year, like if you think about it, everyone had more spots because there's 48 teams. Right? It's not 32. So they're missing out on a World Cup where there's 48 teams and they still couldn't manage to secure a spot. So I think sometimes you can get caught up in the assumption of, hey, we wear this Azzurri jersey, it's gonna happen. We have the history. We've shown this method of success. But you gotta build that every single qualifying cycle. You gotta build that every single time. If you just assume, okay, this is where we're at, and things are just going to be moving in a linear fashion, well, that's not really a assumption that you can be safe to take in, because there's other teams that want to knock you down, which is what we're seeing right now. So I think it's without knowing the whole ins and outs of the Italian Federation, I just think there's a number of things that they have to look at, and I think they're having that public reckoning in terms of really understanding, trying to get a grasp of what's going on, so that they can qualify for 2030 and beyond.
Yeah, it's crazy to not see them there in 3 straight now. Neel Bhattacharjee here with me, Binghamton women's soccer head coach, speaking on the 2026 World Cup. And before we jump into the Binghamton side of things, I do want to go to this. And you talked about the expansion of the FIFA World Cup here in 2026, 48 teams. Instead of 30 plus, we now have almost 50, and we have 12 groups and 4 in each group, which makes up the 48. Which is insane, because I'm used to seeing like Group H. Now we have I, J, K, L. So I'm going to read these off, and I want to get your thoughts of who you think may be the best group, and then versus maybe the weakest group, to get your thoughts of who's like most stacked, and then maybe what's the one that you think maybe doesn't have as much of the kind of push by a bunch of teams here to get to the end. So which group is kind of set up for a team or two to win it, and then which ones are the toughest? Group A is Mexico, South Africa, Korea Republic, and Czechia. Group B, Canada, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. Group C, we have Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. In Group D, we have the United States of America, as well as Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. Then we have Group E, Germany, Curacao, the Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. Group F, we have the Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, and Tunisia. I already know what I'm circling here. Group G, we have Belgium, Egypt, Iran, New Zealand. In Group H, we have Spain, Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. In Group I, we have France, Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. In Group J, we have Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. In Group K, we have Portugal, the Congo, Dominican Republic, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. Group L, we have England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. So, of those groups, the 12 groups we have, which ones do you think are the most stacked? And then what's a group or two that maybe you think doesn't have as much firepower?
I would say Group F and Group L are probably the most stacked. And to advance out, you got to be one of the top two teams or one of the top third place teams to get yourself to the round of 32, right? Because it's going to dwindle from 48 to 32. I would say in terms of the easiest path, I would say Group J. I think Argentina is going to have a cakewalk in terms of advancing out of that one. So some pretty interesting lineups. I would say probably Group B, probably one of the lesser groups as well. I think that's pretty open, no dominant power there. So I think any of those two, potentially three teams could advance out. And I also would just caution the U.S. fans. I don't think Group D is an easy group. That is not going to be a cakewalk to advance out. Turkey's a good side. I certainly wouldn't count out Paraguay or Australia. So I think that's going to be a pretty interesting group in terms of all those games coming up.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you when you picked the toughest ones. When I was going through it, I smiled when I brought up Group F, because I know that the Netherlands has been a thorn in the side. They push Spain at times. I know Japan, Sweden, and so we'll see who gets out of that one. And then, like you talked about, Group L, looking at Ghana, who has, pushed certain teams and made certain teams uncomfortable historically, including the United States. You have England in that as well. And then with Argentina in Group J, I feel good about that. And like you said, Group B, it's kind of wide open. Canada, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. Anybody can come out of that. So I don't disagree with your points made there as we speak here with the Binghamton women's soccer head coach, Neel Bhattacharjee. Neel, let's go to one of the best things about being a student athlete, and something that we don't talk about enough, yet I talk about here on the show, because the last time I checked, you can't be an athlete at a college if you're not a student who's enrolled in the college. And Binghamton University is a top 10 public Ivy League school that actually cares about education. We got to see student athletes walk across the stage, and I know that there was a bunch of pictures posted by the Binghamton women's soccer program celebrating your student athletes who have graduated. So I'd love to put a spotlight on graduating student athletes, what it means to you as a coach, and what it's like to be a part of that piece, away from the pitch, away from practice, seeing them all dressed up, cap and gowned, and heading to the next part of their life.
Yeah, well, really proud for this terrific milestone for all of them. So we had a number of players that graduated and walked, Maddie O'Sullivan, Lauren Clark, and then also Allison Falvo. So they all graduated, and I'm so proud of everything that they gave to the program, but also what they're doing in terms of their next steps, where they know they're going to grad school or having a job offer already. We also have some players that graduated that will be back next year. So Paige Luke, who was able to finish her undergrad, now starting her grad work, and then also Brooke Herber, Devin Lillis, who graduated their undergrad, and they'll be coming back for their fifth years. Both of them had unfortunate season-ending injuries, but they'll be coming back to play for a fifth year. And then we had two fifth years that also were able to walk with their graduate degrees. So that was Ola Blanco, and then also Izzy Martillo, Izzy, who also graduated with her undergrad previously. So just so proud of them, to see them celebrate with their families. There's a lot that we expect from the soccer side of things as coaches, as far as what they do on the pitch. But getting a degree from a top tier academic institution from Binghamton, it's no easy feat either. But for them to be able to finish things out, get that degree, how they're going to be able to use that degree to open up windows and opportunities for the next 40, 50, 60 years of their life. It's fantastic, for me to witness, and just happy that they were able to play such an important piece in terms of our program success, and that our program could be this little incremental step in terms of what they're going to do as far as having great careers, being great moms, great wives, whatever the next step is going to be for them personally and professionally, what they're going to do as far as being leaders, how they're going to have impact in their communities. It's something that really we take a lot of pride in, and just was enjoyable to see that on graduation weekend.
Yeah, and when you get to be with them and have some time and you were a part of their road, a part of their journey in their life at Binghamton and beyond. How do you experience graduation day? How do you experience, kind of the story behind the smile and taking the picture, so to speak?
For me, it's funny. It goes by so quick. So we're a fall sport, so a lot of this we talk about on senior day, which typically happens at the end of October or early November, and then this year we did our season-ending banquet when we came back in January. So I talk a lot about it then, but I mean I can so clearly remember being out on the fields, watching them with their club teams. I can tell you what it was like on their recruit visits, or recall some of the phone calls that we had. So it's just, and it doesn't really seem that long ago. When I was watching them as sophomores in high school, then talking to them and securing verbal commitments junior year, to then watching them senior year, and then these 4 years, and it goes by so quick. In some ways, it seems like a marathon, as you look at it over the course of time. But in other ways, it's this quick sprint, where you've got this 4-year experience, and then you take a lot of pride in terms of when you see photos, like watching them as freshmen and seeing some of the old photos. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys look like kids here, and now you're like these mature individuals that are going to make your mark in terms of what you're doing now in grad school, or that initial job offer, which again are opportunities. Those are windows that getting that Binghamton degree is going to open for you. But yeah, it's just kind of a wave, just kind of a mixture of all these different emotions. And but I'd say, the overall feeling is just a sense of pride, and just in terms of taking everything that these kids have given to the program, and have they been able to utilize that as far as their own next step in their own path.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it goes by fast. I can literally say to myself, graduation from my university, and I can go right back to that moment, who I took pictures with. But then the day itself was a whirlwind. It was just very kind of crazy commotion, highway, things moving so fast, but I could still go back and picture those moments. And so I'm happy that you got to celebrate. I'm happy that some of these names and faces are coming back. They got their degree, and now they're going to have another opportunity, another season with grad school. And before we hop out of here with Neel Bhattacharjee, I do want to look forward a little bit, and then we're going to play some rapid fire. So I know that I promised you a little bit less of time today, but I have to steal you a little bit longer, Neel, because I like my time with you. So I'm going to ask first and foremost about this 2026 roster. As we go forward here, we have some returning faces and names. You mentioned some of them, the Becca Kesslers of the world. And Beck is another one where I've seen her grow. I've seen her blossom. I saw this little kid back to who she is today, which is incredible. Anna Buckwalter, who's been on the show. You mentioned Brooke Herber and Paige Luke. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with Paige, Sophia Garofalo, and so on and so forth. So when we look at this 2026 roster, I'd love to get your thoughts on recruiting, on stepping forward. You're coming off a 10-2-5 season, which again, congratulations. Fantastic season to have double-digit victories, and in 17 contests on the pitch, you only had 2 that ended in losses. So a fantastic season to build on. So bring me into 2026, the roster, and the look ahead for the Bearcats.
Sure. So we start a little bit earlier this year. So as you may have heard, the men's model, their next year they're going to be going to the 2 semester model. The women's side, we're doing something a little bit different. So instead of the 2 semester model, we're just going to start a little bit earlier and end a little bit later in the fall. So this year we report back July 15th. So it's typically 2 weeks earlier than usual to start what's called a transition period.
Yeah.
And then we're coming off a terrific spring season. Got to play some high quality opposition, got to see some different looks that tested us, and including that Italy trip where we were able to play a couple scrimmages there. We're excited about this team coming back. We've got 9 starters that returned back. The starters that will be moving on were Alison Falvo and Ola Blanco, and then we had minutes as well from Lauren Clark, Izzy Martillo. But we're really excited as far as we return a lot of experience, a lot of kids that got good minutes. We scored 27 goals last year. 25 of those goals are returning back. In terms of the people that scored them. We had 6 players that were all conference last year. All 6 of them are coming back. So I think on paper, we're really excited. But as you know, games aren't won on paper. So we know we've got a lot of work to do, and we're certainly going to have some high level opposition. But our goal is very much the same. We want to win the regular season championship, which we did last year when we went undefeated in the America East, and have won it 3 out of the last 4 years. So we know there's a target on our back, and we know we fell a little bit short in terms of what we did in the postseason. So we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to win the postseason, and if we do that, then we're making the NCAA tournament. Certainly those are our goals and aspirations. We do have 7 freshmen that are coming in, so really excited about that. We are looking to potentially sign an international player, which we'll probably be hearing about here very shortly, and also potentially bringing in 1 to 2 players off the transfer portal. We are currently at 25 players, but that I would expect by the time this is all said and done, which should be pretty soon. It may be 27, perhaps being at the limit of 28, which is our roster limit for women's soccer. So we've got a lot of really good things in terms of our development, in terms of pieces coming back. We should be excited about the season, and we get things started off with our first game when we host Lehigh on August 13th. So a lot of good things happening, a lot of good things that we're using as a springboard, but we got to put in the work over the summer and preseason to get ready for what's going to be a tough slate coming up.
Yeah, a lot of great notes here that I just took here in the studio. A lot of things to be excited about. And like you said, potentially somebody coming in internationally and maybe a couple players from the transfer portal to get to that roster limit of 28 for this women's soccer program, stepping ahead for Binghamton University and these Bearcats. And that I'll be keeping my ear to the ground on who those names may very well be when all is said, signed, and delivered and done. So with that being said, Neel, let's play some rapid fire. You get the first question. Any topic, any question. What do you got for me?
Do you follow Serie A? And if so, who's historically been your team, and historically have you had a favorite player or two?
So when it comes to Serie A, I will say this. I need to watch more than, what I tend to watch national teams. I tend to watch the World Cup when it comes to countries and whatnot. I think when, we look at Serie A in Italy, I definitely want to spend some more time with this. I stay up late, so there's no reason why I can't do this because I know there's a 6-hour difference. But, if I'm looking back at the standings now, I mean, obviously, some names here, I would say AC Milan definitely is one that a lot of people pay attention to. I think Napoli is one that I want to spend a closer eye on. And I mean, I look back at the standings here, and Napoli was second here, 22 and 8, 22, 8 and 7. And so, AS Roma as well. So I would say feet to the fire. If I had to give you an answer today, it would be AC Milan because that's the noticeable name for me. But I want to spend more time with Serie A, and especially going off of our conversation and what you talked about with maybe some systemic things that are going on in Italy. I want to make sure that I spend a closer eye here and kind of try to research this myself to see where things are at. My question back to you, I guess I'm going to keep with that. So in Italy and Serie A for you, who would be the teams that you would circle?
I would say, well, I say for me, and this is just kind of a personal thing. I wouldn't say necessarily I have a team, regardless of what league I follow, but I do tend to follow the American players.
Okay.
With that, I would say AC Milan, and seeing everything that Christian Pulisic has been able to do and the career that he's had. And I think if the U.S. is going to have a lot of success this World Cup, it's going to come down to how impactful Christian Pulisic can be. So following them and the career he's had, I know he had a great run at Borussia Dortmund. Didn't quite go as well in Chelsea, and I think he's really found a good spot and niche for him at AC Milan. And then also Juventus.
Yeah.
I've always been a Gianluca Buffon fan. So seeing what they've been able to do, and again, some American connections there with Weston McKennie. So I'd say those would probably be the two teams that I followed, and then and I'd say more recently, when I was in Italy, I absolutely loved Naples. I mean, we went to Florence, we went to Rome, and we went to Naples. I loved all of them, all very different cities. But seeing how Naples, how they support and root for the team, the history of Maradona, and what he was able to do at Napoli, I'd say that's another team that I follow. So I'm a little bit of a bandwagon fan. I'm not going to say I'm going to live and die with one team, but those would be the three that I would say I would follow most closely in Serie A now.
Yeah, and Juventus, the one that you brought up, that was another one on my list. So we kind of have the same list, but you definitely have more of the history and the watching that I do. I got to catch up with you on that, but I will say Napoli, the birthplace of pizza, and that is definitely a true statement after going there myself last year with my dad. What's your next question for me, Neel?
What are your plans for the World Cup? Are you going to see if you can get to a game or two, or do you have a special like man cave where you can basically lock yourself down on the couch? Like what are going to be your plans for following the tournament?
So I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I'm definitely going to be locked into this thing. I mean, the beauty of this time period of when the World Cup is that it's an open period for me as far as covering games. So, June 11th to July 19th puts me in a kind of a sweet spot. The end of it puts me into media days for football, for college football. But the majority of this, I will be able to, sit on the couch and watch, so to speak. But I would like to get out. I just find it interesting when it comes to the United States. If you look at the host cities that are going to have games in this North American World Cup in FIFA here for the men's side in 2026, you look at where I've been and where I've been recently. So Atlanta, I frequent, and Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I frequent. Dallas, so I've been to Atlanta within, the past few months. I've been to Dallas within the past few months. I've been to Houston multiple times, but it's been a minute. I've been to Miami within the past few months. New York and New Jersey isn't far away. So when I look at this, I mean, of all the cities, I haven't been to San Francisco, I haven't been to Seattle, I haven't been to Philly, and I've been in the Missouri area, but I haven't been to Kansas City, or LA, but I was close to LA. So when we look at the majority of the cities that they're at, I can honestly say I have some connection to. I've been there at some point, and in Miami, Dallas, and Atlanta, it's been very recent. So I find it funny, and you could take a direct flight from Syracuse to Dallas, Fort Worth, to Atlanta. You can obviously get to New York, New Jersey area pretty easily as well. So I would like to do that. I think what I would personally like to do, since 100% of this screen wants to go to a game and you are schooled in figuring out ticket-wise, I want to know, and this is going to be my question back to you, will Neel Bhattacharjee join me on the charge to find a game that you and I can go to, and our first game that we go to as fans, be it a World Cup game, and then we can do something cool around that, have a little show in the car, so to speak. Could we find a game to go to?
Absolutely. So I'll listen. I'm going to keep my eyes open and peeled for whatever comes up. I'm going to use my experience, like I said, from last year when I went to the Club World Cup. Just watching ticket prices and availability and all of that. So yeah, for sure. And listen, if you're willing to go to MetLife or Boston or Philly, let's do it. Pull out your passport because Toronto is an easy drive. So a number of games that are, really within 4 hours of us. So yeah, I'll be taking a look, and some of it might be on a fly. It may not have a month's notice, maybe just a couple of days, pending what the availability is going to be and pricing and all that. But yeah, absolutely. I'd be down for it, and we'll figure a way to get there. Hopefully not have to worry about taking like a $200 train ride to get there, like I'm hearing in some places. But yeah, let's definitely keep our eyes open. I'd be a lot of fun for us to find a game and do it together.
Yeah, that would be nice to go to a game, have it be the World Cup, and get to do something cool around it. So, and on the air and off the air, I'm the same. So if I said it here, I meant it. So I'm definitely open to doing that because I think it would be fun. And why not, right? I want to be able to say that, we don't know when it's going to come back to North America. It's been a really long time. It's been like 30 years. So why not, give it a shot when we have the shot to take? What's your final question for me, Neel?
I guess, final question. Following you this past year, seems like you've had quite a bit in terms of travel miles, and getting to see some pretty cool events. If you could rate your top three events that you were able to attend and see in person, going from three to two to one, what would they be?
Great question. And I thank God that He lets me do what I love and love what I do. I thanked Him for that this morning. So if I had to pick within this last year, so let's say we're doing May to May in the last 12 months, I would say three would be, it's tough. I would say three would be, which one do I want to pick? I'd probably have to say three would be the ACC American Football Media Days because for the first time ever, they were in the same city. And so last July, they were in Charlotte and they were literally behind each other. So I went from one building, did my 3 days, left that building, walked up the road into the other building to do the rest of that day and the next day. So I would love it if the ACC and the American stayed in the same city so I don't have to travel and miss. I don't like to miss a team. So when I'm covering these two conferences and almost 30 teams, I want all of them on the show, all their coaches, their student athletes. I research to have questions prepared for everybody. So I don't like to miss anyone. I'd love it if they did that again this year. And I'm waiting on the American. I know the ACC I already applied for. And I think this is year like 14 or 15 for me covering the ACC. And I want to thank Jim Phillips, John Swafford before him, Amy Avicolli. I want to thank, the entire team there. Kevin, I was asked to vote in the polls that I've been able to vote for the players of the week at each position. I've been able to vote at the end of the year, and I just got asked this past season to be a part of a very small group nationally that votes in the ACC. So I do want to thank the entire staff for even thinking of me to do that. It's been a true honor, and I feel very blessed to do that. So I would say that is three. I would say two is covering the college football playoff when my job was to broadcast from the beach in Miami. And then I would say, and I got to the night before the championship game, I was on a yacht. Never in my life did I think I'd be on a yacht. I am a blue collar kid. I had a couple, I had some change in my pocket when I started my company. So to put me on a yacht, God knows somehow He let me infiltrate that rich party. So I appreciate that. And shout out to all the people that don't think they'll ever be there. I'm here to tell you that you can be, and us blue collar kids can make it. And then I would say the number one has got to be the fact that I got to broadcast live and recorded from Italy. I broadcasted live from Rome, live from Capri in the water, and I got to do a broadcast walking the beach of Tortora. There's a place in Calabria called Tortora, Calabria, Italy. I got to broadcast Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and the beach of Tortora being my studio for the day, which is absolute insanity. I climbed a mountain right outside of Naples in Maddaloni, where my dad's family grew up. I did it to the signs of the cross, literally did the Jesus's path to the cross up this mountain, got to be at the top, and got to hear a lot of things from God, cried, and made a lot of promises to God that I have to keep. So I would have to say number one by far is to do what I love what I do, and to be able to do it from Italy. I do not have words for sitting on a balcony in Rome and broadcasting my show. I don't have words for that. I don't.
That's a pretty impressive top three, and for that to be all within 12 months. So well done to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My question back to you, Neel, if you could broadcast with me the World Cup from any three countries. So let's just say that, for the next, let's not even think about where they're going to be held at. Let's just say bucket list. If we were doing World Cup on-site coverage, what three countries would you want to broadcast the World Cup with me at?
Any three countries in the world, or you mean like this World Cup?
Any three in the world.
All right, I'm going to pick the U.S. As one of them, and I know that might sound maybe a little bit cheesy, but hey, it's here, and I'm an American, grew up in this country, and a proponent of what's happening in U.S. soccer, whether that's on the men's side and of course on the women's side. So I'd say that would be one. I'd say second, I would say would be Spain. I just love the style of football that they play. It's a country that I have not visited, so part of it too is that it would be a bucket list type of situation, and I think they've got a great shot in terms of performing very well at this World Cup. And then three would be Brazil. I have been to Rio de Janeiro before, but just seeing the game, how the people embrace it, it's a way of life, it's a way of their culture. I've been on Copacabana and seen the game played there on the sand on the beach. And just how the game is really taking in, and the Brazilians, they like to have a good time. So I think watching their team have some success, and seeing them do well, and watching their fans having some samba activity and all of that, I can't imagine there would be very many places that would provide a more festive environment than you're going to find there.
Three fantastic choices. I'm proud to be an American. Spain, I have heritage and family there, and it is a bucket list for me too. And then I have people that I know in Brazil, and I would love to go to Brazil. And I get to do something that on my side would be good. I'm a single man, so I'm gonna go to Brazil, and I'm gonna live my best life. So with that being said, Neel Bhattacharjee here in this Bearcat Breakroom. I asked him for like 20, 30 minutes. He gave me almost an hour. Neel, you are always just an incredible person to speak with. And from standing next to you on a field in Syracuse for our first conversation to where we are today, I cannot thank you enough for your friendship on and off the air, and for the work that you do as a coach, and just the human being that you are beyond the world of soccer. So I thank you as always for the conversation, and I'm going to hold you to the fact that I want you to give me a couple games here, and let's get out to the World Cup.
All right, I'm definitely going to do my best, and always appreciate your support, and we look forward to you covering our team this fall. I think we got a lot of good pieces in place. I think you're going to love our student athletes and how they're going to be representing Binghamton in both off the field, and also what we're going to be doing on the soccer pitch. So always appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to getting things started here shortly.
Well, I've been spoiled because you have some terrific student athletes, and I look forward to seeing you and the team this season, and of course enjoying the World Cup as we head on that road as well. So God bless to you and the family, and I'll look forward to talking with you soon, Neel.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Take care. That coming from Neel Bhattacharjee one more time here on the broadcast inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios here on Wake Up Call, where sports meets life. Cannot thank Neel enough. Again, asked him to give us 20 minutes today, 20, 30 minutes today. And every time Neel and I talk, I feel very blessed to have somebody like Neel in my life where I could just sit and pick his brain. I'm always like hosting the show, but then I also catch myself just sitting here listening and watching as a fan when I have somebody like Neel on. And I feel that way about Binghamton in general. I wanted to work with Binghamton for a long time. And the fact that we're doing this, we're in year 3, it's an honor and a privilege. I was excited to work with these coaches and these student athletes and the institution, and the people at Binghamton University have only taken everything I was excited about and multiplied it by 10. I'm grateful for the staff that is at Binghamton behind the scenes when it comes to communications. I'm grateful for them helping me set up these interviews and conversations. I am so grateful to Gene Marshall, the director of athletics, that saw my vision and my mission, and that we parallel each other on that. I am, wonderfully thankful for the president's seat of the former president, the current president, to be able to speak with both of them and to have wonderful conversations. I love, my conversation with Ann just meant the world to me. And at the end of the conversation, she's like, "Can I come back?" And I was like, "Isn't that supposed to be my line?" So I definitely appreciate that. And then, of course, to the student athletes and the coaches. I mean, I've met so many wonderful coaches, the longevity of a bunch of them. I feel very spoiled. The championship caliber, an incredible baseball team, the softball team, volleyball with the moves that they've made, women's basketball's elevation, men's basketball, and the time that I've gotten to spend over the years with them and the work that they have done and what they did within the last couple of years to rise above where they had been before, to men's and women's soccer. The list goes on and on when it comes to Binghamton swimming and diving. I feel golf, a hole-in-one that we got to celebrate here recently. I feel very, very fortunate. Flag football's coming. I cannot thank the student athletes enough, the coaches enough. Binghamton, you become a piece of my heart. And you were before, and, I wanted to do something special with you. And thanks to Gene Marshall and the crew, we've been able to do this and make this happen. And the B means something here on Wake Up Call. It means something locally, nationally, internationally. And so I just want to thank Binghamton University and the wonderful coaches and student athletes and staff members and leadership, and of course the alumni as well. And I want to thank Neel Bhattacharjee for today, because it's always my honor and my privilege. So we'll take a step aside for a fast break. We've only taken one commercial break today. Under promise, over deliver. It's all about giving you content here on the show. And at the same time, I want to honor the people that are wonderful partners. They're part of the family here at Wake Up Call. So let's hear from them here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, and then we'll wrap things up with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's right after this.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge, and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item, available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. We want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. You can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, everyone in the world's going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. A delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays, from a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing. And you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Kaz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point, because you get a little something different at each one. We understand how hard it is to, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
Avicolli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicolli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on in to the neighborhood spot Avicolli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily?
Hello, this is Dylan Husted, the owner of the Baked Potato Express. We do mostly big festivals or big corporate like private events. Typically just big festivals such as like Taste of Syracuse, Food Truck Battle, Battle of the Wings. I do the State Fair. They're ordering from a fresh food truck that is making real food and happy to make it and wants them to enjoy every bite. We season every potato before they go in the oven, and then they bake for an hour, and when they come out, we season them again after we cut them. We use real butter, real cheese, real ingredients, so it's all really good food and people love it. We have a lot of returning customers and regulars that we see very often. The customers really make a big impact, and this is a big food truck community. The events here are super busy. It's like in my blood. I like building things and creating stuff that people love, and me and my friends are the ones that run the truck, so it's kind of, we keep it's a tight circle in there, and we have like a family sort of oriented truck, and it's a lot of fun, and we have a good time doing it, and people love our food, so it ends up making it well for everybody. You can contact the Baked Potato Express at thebakedpotatoexpress@gmail.com or the Baked Potato Express on Instagram or TikTok. We are very happy to be partnered up with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as the exclusive sponsor of the Annoying Moment of the Week. And be sure to try DT's baked potato creation at all of our food trucks. The Baked Potato Express. Let's get baked.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Hi, this is Chris Rauda
and Colleen Rakowski from Gray's Craze of Clay.
It's a fun, innovative, upscale catering solution. We've turned eating into a whole new experience. Each of our boards is packed with delicious mix of artisan cheeses. We use premium cured meats, fresh fruits, nuts, and all of the sweet touches that really bring out the best in every perfect bite.
We offer something as small as a grab and go that feeds one, maybe two people, to our large board that can serve anywhere up to 25, 28 people. So we have the ability to really meet and hopefully exceed all of our customers' expectations when it comes to the different varieties of things that we have.
Charcuterie boards or boxes are healthy, fresh, delicious. They're made to order. We're baking the breads here daily. We're baking the cookies here daily. All of our dips are homemade, made in-house. All of our spreads are all made in-house.
When you open that board or box that we have delivered or you have picked up, we want you to know that it was made with care and designed to completely elevate your event, celebration, or meeting.
We've catered parties and events for up to 300 people. So if you're walking in to grab something for lunch or something for date night or movie night, that's great too. Our events go from you eating in the car on the way home to a catering event in a rehearsal dinner or cocktail hour or party.
When we do, again, know what the event is, specifically for a wedding, we like to schedule tastings so the bride and groom can come in and see what we have to offer, and we can then, as we talk, to try to understand what they're looking for, what the venue's like. We do like to have that one-on-one interaction when it comes to catering bigger events.
Our address is 4599 State Route 31, Suite 5 in Clay, New York. We're on the corner of Route 31 and Henry Clay at Clay Marketplace.
You can order on the phone by calling area code 315-409-4171 or online at grayscraze.com/clay-ny. Come visit us at Gray's Craze of Clay, New York,
where we want you to celebrate everything.
Hey everybody, this is Rockney Roberts from Willow Rock Brewing Company. We are here in Cicero at the Willow Rock Pizza Pub.
And I'm Kevin Williams, also from Willow Rock Brewing Company. Happy to be here and happy to be partnering with CNS and Dan Tortora.
You want some place where you can feel comfortable and hopefully ingratiate yourself with the community. And Kevin, he grew up right down the road from here. I grew up in Brewerton, so not too far away. We know the area, we know the people, they're great, and we were just really excited to be able to come to the area.
Yeah, and having the opportunity to meet some of these coaches, some of the people in general already, and seeing the CNS colors kind of around, and already partnering on a smaller level with individual teams really made this make sense to us to really formalize kind of a partnership with the school and get this rolling.
You know, Willow Rock to me has always been about high quality beverages, high quality experiences, and now high quality food in our pizza pub. You know, that was something new for us when we came to Cicero. Right from the drop, we knew we were going to have a focus on the highest quality food to go with our high quality beer. At the Willow Rock Pizza Pub, you're getting high quality, hand cut, top notch ingredients. We're open for lunch. That's a really important thing for us, is to be able to get that person in here like, hey, you only got 30 minutes for lunch, but we're going to have something for you that you can get quickly and available to everybody.
Yeah, we wanted something that was just a little bit outside the box, a little bit outside of comfort zone, but still something that you could rely on to be consistent and easy to look at and easy to be like, oh, I can see myself eating this. I can see myself wanting to have that more than once. Eating a whole pizza like our beef on weck pizza, I've never seen one anywhere. It's just a great ideas, great inspiration across the board. We're their spot to stop. We're their friendly neighborhood watering hole, as well as pizza place and place to stop for a restaurant. Not just beer drinkers here. We've got wines, we've got cocktails, we got non-alcoholic stuff for the kids.
The location is more important today than it ever has been before, and we're lucky enough to be here in Cicero. The Willow Rock Pizza Pub is a place where you can bring your family. You can come in, you can grab a soda, you can relax. You can come after a game, before a game, your parents, your grandparents. Our goal is to make sure that everyone's comfortable here. We want students, we want athletes, we want your coaches. It's going to be a good time. So come here, enjoy the high quality food, high quality beverage that we're going to offer to everybody. And hey, go North Stars.
We're so happy to have the North Stars. We are very much a kid-friendly establishment. We have tons of space outside for everybody to be playing outside, as well as listening to live music, enjoying some pizza.
The Willow Rock Pizza Pub is open 6 days a week here in Cicero. That is Tuesday through Sunday. And our website is willowrockbrew.com, and our socials are at Willow Rock Brew. So find us on the net, find us in person. We'll see you soon.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Hope you're having yourselves a beautiful, wonderful, safe, and healthy morning here. And we're very happy, as always, that you get to hang out with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. I know that time is one of those gifts that you give somebody that you can never get back. So the fact that you spend time watching and listening to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and to everything we do with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media really means the world to me. So I want to take this time to once again, as always, simply say thank you. Thank you so very much for your support, your love, and your positivity and goodness. So with that being said, it is now time to jump into our final piece of every Tuesday broadcast, which are the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful team at Avicolli's. Avicolli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road. Go and see Avicolli's 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. Of course, they have their outdoor patio in this nice weather. Outdoor patio will open up. They have their casual pizza side. They have their fine dining side and their bars. So there's 4 different ways to experience Avicolli's on site. And of course, you can also experience them by calling them for catering, delivery, and takeout. 315-622-5100. Once again, for catering, delivery, and for takeout, you can call Avicolli's at 315-622-5100 to support local, and you can order online at myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Today's topic for the ingredients to success: changed behavior. So, what do they say? The best apology is changed behavior. And that's something that really hits with me, right? If you want to truly apologize, changed behavior is the thing that'll show you that. So I think that that's absolutely important. Absolutely important. You can't simply say, well, I'm sorry, well, I'm sorry, well, I'm sorry, well, I'm sorry, and then not change your behavior, because then the apology is just going to continue to be an apology, constantly happening over and over and over again with no end in sight. An apology without changed behavior is simply empty words. That's all it is. So I ask you today, and I ask myself today, that when you apologize for something, when you feel like you've gone down the wrong path, when you need to change your behavior, are you actually doing it? See, I believe in God. I'm a firm believer in God. God is the most important anything to me and always will be, and always has been. Well, I'll tell you this. If I get down on my knees and I say to God, I'm sorry, and then I go and do the same thing, and then I say I'm sorry, and 2 days later I do the same thing, and then a week later I do the same thing, my apology starts to lose meaning. Right? It looks like you're just going back to God as a wishing well. Like, hey, God, you're this endless well of support and love and positivity, so I'm going to keep doing what I want to do. I'm going to keep screwing up. I'm going to know I'm screwing up. And no matter how many times I do it, you're going to take me back. Well, would we do that in a real relationship? If you treat God like an endless well of forgiveness, would you do the same thing if somebody did that to you? What if you dated somebody? And they cheated, and they cheated, and they cheated, and they cheated, and they cheated. And every time they cheated, they're like, man, I'm not going to do it again. I'm sorry. But then they kept doing it. Would you stay? If you were friends with somebody who constantly gossiped about you and lied about you, and they apologized every time they did it, every time they let your private stuff go out in the public sphere, they apologized, but they kept doing it, would you stay friends with that person? See, we treat God differently than we would want people to treat us or that we would deal with. And what does the Our Father say? Forgive us as we forgive our sins the same way we forgive other people who sin against us. Treat us the same way that we treat them. Well, I would double down on that and say, are we asking God to accept things from us that we wouldn't accept from other people? Are we asking God to be the constant well of forgiveness that we're not going to be? Not even the constant well of forgiveness, but Would we stay in situation? Because it's forgiveness and access are two different things. You can forgive somebody, but it doesn't mean they get to stay in your life. But we keep asking God to show up for us. Are we showing up for him? We keep apologizing, but are we changing our behavior? And do we treat God differently than we treat people? All right. So do we expect God to deal with us constantly screwing up as long as we apologize? But would we stay friends and date and marry people who apologized and constantly screwed up? Would we want to, so what we ask God to accept, would we accept from other people? Is essentially what I'm asking you. Because that answer is probably no. So then why do it? Because God is better than human being, because God is better than anything, because God is higher than anything, because God is the all-powerful, all-knowing Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, because God is, was, and always will be, are we punishing God because God is better than us? Are we punishing God because we know that God loves us? Would we want other people to punish us the way we punish God simply because we love them? You know, you hear people talk about, well, you take advantage of those closest to you. Are we not taking advantage of God if we sin over and over and over again, especially the same sins, and just constantly ask for forgiveness and then go right back into the sin? Changed behavior is the real apology. Changed behavior is the real penance. Because you can go to confession 1,000,000 times, 2,000,000 times, 10,000,000 times, and tell God the same thing over and over and over again. And they could tell you to say Our Fathers and Hail Marys and read this Bible verse, think about this, ponder this. But if you don't change your behavior, what are you changing? If you don't stop sinning, if you don't stop doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing or saying, then your words are empty. So if I go to God and I apologize and then I keep doing the same thing, but then I say to God, I would never date a woman who would do this to me, who would apologize and then keep doing the same thing and keep hurting me. At a certain point, I'm like, I don't care about your apology. I don't want to be here anymore. But we ask God to be there no matter what. Don't take advantage of the good ones and don't take advantage of the best one. The best way to apologize for a sin, the best way to apologize for wrongdoing is to change your behavior for the better, stop the habit, and to show God that your words have meaning, hold weight. Because if your words don't have meaning and don't hold weight, why even say them? Why even waste God's time? And time is precious. These have been the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful team at Avicolli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. Open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. As always, drink responsibly and only if you're of age. Make sure you head out to Avicolli's for their lunch and their dinner, as well as their bar that's there for you. Indoor and outdoor dining, casual and fine dining. It's all in one place. You can experience Avicolli's so many different ways by going to 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, right down the road from Liverpool High School that you can see if you stand at the corner of Wetzel Road and Route 57. And, of course, you can also experience Avicolli's by calling 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100 for Avicolli's, and you can order online at myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. And graduations are happening, and graduations will be coming up as well. So make sure you remember that number and that website, 315-622-5100 and myavicollis.com. We'll take our final step aside inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios for this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here, we just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing, and so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Find your way over to where you get to be a big kid every single week with packs and boxes to open and singles and graded cards to find in their display cases, as well as everything you need to protect your cards, travel with them, and showcase them. GG Cards and Breaks is the place to be. 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Right there, open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and then Sundays from 10 to 5. I have had so many memories there, built so many friendships, and it's not even been a full 3 calendar years that I've been around the wonderful team that is headed up by Josh and Anthony. I cannot say enough about GG Cards and Breaks. Some of you might look at a card and say it's just a piece of cardboard. I say it's connecting to your favorite player, your favorite team, your favorite game, your favorite characters. And there are so many things to love and collect. You're spoiled as a kid now. You have Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, Disney, Lorcana, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the cards continue to evolve when it comes to football, basketball, baseball, soccer, wrestling, hockey, as well as having cards that are signed by entertainers, by actors and actresses and illustrators and writers and musicians and voice actors and singers. It's all at GG Cards and Breaks while supplies last. We'll see you out there today. Garbage Pail Kids, all of the stuff they have at GG Cards and Breaks. There's nothing like it. Head out there today and experience what I experience, which is a place that's welcoming, homey, connecting, and where I get to be any age and still feel like a little kid. GG Cards and Breaks, 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. We'll see you there. Chick-fil-A in DeWitt. Let's shout out the nostalgia that we have at Chick-fil-A in DeWitt on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. Strawberry hibiscus beverages, the Jalapeno Ranch Club chicken sandwich, the jalapeno ranch on top of the original, the spicy, or the grilled. Can you imagine jalapeno ranch on top of a spicy chicken sandwich? That's spice on spice. You better be ready for it. Better get one of them new frosted beverages so that you can cool your mouth down. Get it all at Chick-fil-A in DeWitt today on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. Megan Sorber and her team cannot wait to see you, and you can't miss their giant brick building. You will see it on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. Giant parking lot, double drive-through, and a massive building that has a wonderful dining area for you. Chick-fil-A in DeWitt is looking forward to seeing you today on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. So head there for lunch and dinner, as well as breakfast tomorrow morning.
Hi, this is Gina Husted. I'm part owner of Skippy's Ice Cream. The other half is my better half, Don Husted Jr. When somebody comes up to the truck and it's a family, it's nice that the older generation is nostalgic and they can tell the younger generation, back in my day, we used to have the truck around our neighborhood. So now you're lucky because the truck can come to your party, and you're lucky that this truck is at a festival and you're getting to buy the ice cream. And basically we're ice cream that comes to you now, specifically comes to you, not for you waiting for us, we're coming to you. We will do neighborhoods if you have a block party. We do birthdays, we do anniversaries, we do celebrations of life, we do wedding showers, we do festivals, we'll do corporate events, we have a lot of corporate picnics, we have family reunions, so it's a whole wide range of whatever party you have, we'd love to be at. We're so appreciative of the community, always coming up to us at festivals and calling us to have different events. We have a lot of return customers. We always have people coming up to our truck. We're always there for the community. We always try to give back to different organizations and fundraisers, and so I think the community sees that. We like to give back to them. This is where we live. This is where we were raised. This is where our kids were raised. So the community is very special to us. I mean, obviously, we've lived here our whole lives, so it means a lot that they come up to our truck and that they choose us, because we're just there to please the community and deal with as many people as we can in this community, because this is, like I said, where we were born and raised. If you'd like to get in touch with Skippy's Ice Cream and have us at your next event, I would suggest using our email, skipthecake, SKIPTAGCAKE, skipthecake@gmail.com. That's the fastest way to get a hold of us. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us, and that's going to get the fastest response from us. If you choose to call, if you don't have an email, then you can call 315-456-9750, and we'll be glad to get back to you as soon as we can. Skippy's Ice Cream, the original ice cream truck.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate y'all for being here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. And on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. We're now back on MixLR.com /WakeUpCallDT. So make sure you connect with us there as well. Many thanks to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube for being with us and allowing us to be on your wonderful channels by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. without these wonderful places, we wouldn't be as accessible. So thank you for each of these wonderful platforms for allowing Wake Up Call to be a part of your library of shows. And many thanks to everyone that supports our wonderful partners in Central and Upstate New York. Make sure you become one of those people if you're not already by going to Great Lakes Honda City, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, Myers Creek, the Baked Potato Express, Pizza Man, where I'm going to be tonight with the Beeville baseball program. We'll see you. We'll see Coach Dave Penafeather, the student athletes, the families, and you on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York, tonight, May 19th at 6 p.m., as we will be on stage celebrating the Baldwinsville Bees here inside the 2026 season of the baseball program. Many thanks to Skippy's Ice Cream, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Brian's Landing, Game Point Sports Complex, Gray's Craze at Clay, New York, Avicolli's, Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, Willow Rock Brewing Company, and the Willow Rock Pizza Pub, and of course we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Binghamton University Bearcats. You'll find the Bearcats every single Tuesday, like today, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time with student athletes, coaches, and administration joining me where sports meets life with the Bearcats. You could find it all by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. You'll also find the Bearcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on the show, I want to thank you for being with us. I want to thank my amazing guests inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', Dave Paziak, longtime basketball coach and analyst, bringing his NBA expertise here as we're in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals of the 2026 NBA playoffs. Many thanks to the expertise in the soccer world and in general from Neel Bhattacharjee, speaking on the 2026 World Cup, as well as the student athletes graduating from Binghamton University, those that will be returning as grad students and staying with the program, those who finished up their eligibility, as well as looking forward to the roster and the upcoming schedule and an expanded season for Binghamton women's soccer starting early and ending later here in 2026. And many thanks to the Ingredients to Success and to Avicolli's being a fantastic partner in our community. And make sure you support local at Avicolli's 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. And of course, many thanks to Avicolli's for today's topic, changed behavior. In the meantime, I hope you all have a beautiful day. I will see you tonight on site, on location, at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York, with the Baldwinsville Bees baseball team. We'll see you with Dave Penafeather, as well as the coaching staff, the student athletes, and the families right there on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York tonight, May 19th at 6 p.m. We kick things off with the Baldwinsville Bees inside the 2026 baseball season, and we look forward to hanging out with you all, having a wonderful dinner, enjoying our food and the show that will be on site, on location, on stage at Pizza Man with the Baldwinsville Bees baseball program here on Wake Up Call. In the meantime, have a beautiful day. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. As I always say, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk soon. Take care and stay safe.